welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ethan Udell. I'm a senior from Long Island, New York. I'm studying psychology at Duke. And in addition to managing several, up-and-coming independent artists, I also am the former or outgoing president of Small Town Records, which is Duke's student-run record label and recording studio. And for those of you who don't know Small Town, we've been present on campus for quite a long time now. And at this point, we have 9 artists that are actually active on our roster.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Mitra Kiciman. I'm a junior from South Florida. I'm studying computer science, and I'm the current president of Small Town Records. Very excited to be here moderating the panel with all of our great alumni.
Yeah, and we want to thank you guys all for coming together to join us for the 4th episode of the new Demon Live series. This one's focused on the music industry. We're very grateful to have you all joining us for this hour, and we hope everyone's staying safe and healthy with everything going on. Just to let everyone know, we are recording this Zoom session and it will be posted on the Demon Lounge page on the Demon website. But just before we start, I'd like to thank, everyone that's contributed to putting this together, from Duke in LA, Duke in New York, Duke Arts, DUU, Small Town Records, and all of our amazing panelists for joining us tonight. We've received a bunch of questions from a lot of you that we've taken into account as we structured the panel, but we won't have time to take any live questions during this episode. However, we will be posting the panelists' emails in the chat, so you can follow up with them directly if you'd like.
Yep. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is ask all of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves. So we'll start with Tim, who's currently at iHeartMedia.
Hi, guys. I'm Tim, and I'm at iHeartMedia.
Yeah, you can also give like a brief rundown of kind of like what your role is and
Sure.
things that you've done in the past.
Sure, yeah. So I'm at iHeart. I currently oversee all national revenue and partnerships at iHeart. So spent most of my career in the media business, places like Google and AOL and Rolling Stone, and been here about the last 8 years, kind of when we launched in the iHeart brand, and been loving it ever since. So that's what I've been doing here.
Awesome.
Class of '89, by the way. So I'm the old guy on the panel.
Awesome. So next up is Kaitlin.
Hey guys, I'm Kaitlin. I'm the founder and a manager at Parallax Creative, which is a music company based in Brooklyn, New York. Been doing that since I graduated Duke, and I was class of 2014.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up is Eric.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Hölljes, and I'm a songwriter, singer, performer. I'm in a band called Delta Ray that's been signed more times than I care to count, and we just started our own independent record label as well, and we're a touring band, full-time musician.
That's awesome. Thank you. Next up is Mary.
Hi, everybody. Tim, I have you beat by a year. I'm class of '88, so. I am the chief business officer for an independent record label called Élan Records, which is based in Los Angeles. I've been in this position for 2 years. My background is mostly in independent record labels. I worked at a record label called New West Records for 9 years. I started out in the business managing an artist named Mary Chapin Carpenter, which was back in the early 90s. I worked at Columbia Records for a legendary A&R guy, where I worked with a lot of hair and metal bands, which you guys probably know, like Poison, Iron Maiden, Aerosmith, things like that. But since then, I've actually been really focused on the independent sector, and that's the kind of artist and background that I come from.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Next up is Ethan.
I'm Ethan Schiffres, class of 2005, which means I was supposed to be in Durham last weekend for my 15-year reunion, but obviously no longer the case. I'm a lawyer at a small boutique entertainment firm in Los Angeles called Gang Tyre, Raymer, Brown, and Passman, and I represent mostly artists and executives in the business doing their deals.
Cool. Thank you. Next up is Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Shaw, also class of '05. and I should have been down there in Durham with you, Ethan. But we do occasionally get to be on emails together, and our business does cross a little, which is fun. I work at Sony Music. I run the commercial licensing team. So I do sync licensing, which is putting music to picture, in my case, placing music in commercials. And I've been at Sony about 6 years, and before that I was at Warner, Chappell, and Universal on the publishing side as well, always in sync licensing.
All right, perfect. And finally, Julie.
Hey everyone, my name's Julie Williams. I'm a singer-songwriter. I currently live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was class of 2019, so I recognize a lot of the faces on this chat. Yep, I was a small town artist last year and moved out to Nashville this year to write and perform.
Awesome. So I think we're going to dive into some questions now and get the ball rolling. The first question is going to be aimed at Eric, Julie, and Kaitlin, but we'd love to hear from you guys. What does working from home look like for you now during this time with everything going on? How has coronavirus changed how you interact with your team, your clients, and your fans? And can you share a few tips for some seniors that might be trying to establish themselves as artists after graduation?
I'll just jump right into it. It's changed literally everything about my life. Right now, I think I was supposed to be playing in Portland, Maine. Gramercy was 2 nights ago in New York, and all of our touring, it looks like we postponed that tour for July, but I talked to our agent earlier this week, and it looks like all touring is just going to be kind of a wash for the year. So for bands like us, we are, it's interesting. We're a touring band. That's kind of how we've always made enough money to stay afloat. So we're in a really hard pivot moment for I think a lot of artists are. I mean, I live in Nashville. I'm surrounded by artists, and we have Zoom chats like this frequently where we're talking about how we're gonna get through this next year. But it's literally changed everything. So we are having Zoom conversations with the band. We're all in different states, the band members, which complicates things. So currently not able to broadcast live performances, which I do see some artists doing, but we're putting a plan together. Luckily, we are an independent outfit right now, and we are very flexible, and owning our own content is an asset as of last year. So I'm actually excited and optimistic, but it's one of those moments that I actually had flashbacks to when I graduated in 2009, right after the Great Recession. I couldn't get a job even if I wanted one. So it's largely what pushed me into music to begin with. And for all of the students that are watching this that are wanting to go in the arts, just recognize that that this is as scary as it is for people that maybe are more established. This is actually an incredible time to be an early adopter and an entrepreneur, and help us pave a new way for generating content, generating income, and generating art. So that's just a little glimpse. I'll have more to share, I'm sure, as we go on, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, as someone who just graduated last year and was just feeling like I was starting to get my toes in the water in Nashville, it's definitely been tough to have everything put on pause, all the gigs paused and everything. And I think my tip for any seniors that are going into this time now is to use this time to learn all of those things that you've always said that you've wanted to learn as a musician, like learning Logic, Pro Tools, being able to make your own demos, because I'm finding now that when, I'm doing songwriting sessions before, when I would go to X person's house to record a demo, now that's not happening anymore. So it's always been on my bucket list to learn all of these things and be able to use Final Cut Pro and record yourself and all this time. So I think in this period where everyone's paused, if you can get these tools and master them, when we're in this time and when we come out of it, you'll be so much farther ahead than other folks. And that's what I'm trying to do now. And that would be my advice for any seniors or others who are wondering what to do during this time.
Yep, going off what Eric and Julie said, things are really different now. I mean, than they were a month ago, and they're looking to stay different for a long time. So as my business is split between artist management, tour management, and music photography. So like Eric was saying, with touring being off the books for the rest of the year, it's looking like that component of the business has changed pretty dramatically, where we're looking for creative new ways to get photo opportunities, both as a photographer looking to get the work, and then as a manager, we're looking to get the visual assets for clients. So work has become very much a work from home type of thing. We're looking for some of the artists that I work with at doing some creative photo shoots using the digital tools available to us. So doing shoots over FaceTime and over Zoom and getting results that way, which will be a little bit different than your traditional promo shoot, but we're hoping to work within the times to do that. For me, working from home from the management side, I mean, like everyone else, our communication has moved entirely digitally. So coordinating with the different members of the artist teams is a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom, a lot of email, a lot of pivoting plans to move to this more increasingly and fully digital world that we're looking at. As far as tips for seniors looking to establish themselves, I think now, like Julie said, is a great time to master skills that you had been looking to expand upon. That'll be really valuable. It's also, as an independent artist, a great time because you own all of your content, you own all of your assets. And so you're going to be in full control of everything that you're releasing. And because you're in full control of that content calendar, you're able to maximize your revenue streams, and you're able to generate a little bit more than you might if you were further down the road and you were, say, recouping an album and owed expenses to your label.
Awesome. Thank you all for those answers. Our next question is going to be aimed towards Mary and Jessica. And we want to kind of talk about the power of music to help people and ask, what is the power of music as a catalyst for social impact? How do you and your organization prioritize this as a goal?
I'll go first, Jessica, I guess. Well, I mean, I would say that music always has social impact. So I don't know if that has entirely changed. But yes, I mean, I think people are looking to music more and more as something to help them through this time frame. You know, we just put out a record by an Irish artist, and it's just beautiful music. And you know, there was a lot of questioning about whether or not we were going to stick to our release schedule or whether we were going to push anything. And we generally found from both the artists and really the public that people want music. So, you know, they want new music too. They want to hear it. And like in this instance with her name's Lisa Lamb, you know, so many people have now commented, you know, saying, thank you so much for putting this record out. It's really soothing me during this time. This music is great for right now. You know, we're so happy to have it. So it just has really reinforced that, you know, we made the right decision in putting the music out and continuing to put the music out. So, I mean, I can understand from some of the major labels why they are pushing things, but you know, from our perspective, from my label, we have not moved any release dates. So, you know, we're sticking to our schedule. And so, you know, I mean, I think you guys probably inherently all know that, but, you know, music really leads the way in lots of times like this. You know, people look to the musical artists to, you know, lift their spirits or, you know, give them something to maybe even distract them. And, you know, I find that that is being shown through the release of our music on our labels.
Yeah, I can add on to that. And obviously my area of the business is very specific. And I'll turn back to that, but just on that topic of, you know, the question of whether or not to be releasing music right now and what music can do for people in this situation. I know that we don't need to be that specific here, but we have found overall at Sony, you know, people really responding to certain songs. Like right now we're seeing a lot of momentum with the song that we put out on Arista in October, I believe, by an up and coming artist named JP Sachs. The song was called If the World Was Ending. course, it was written long before there was any, knowledge of where we would be at this point in our as a global community. But it's obviously responding. People have found this song and are really reacting to it, and it's incredible to see, the song that has been out for several months. People are finding it and really, seeing that they can relate to the message right now. And look it up if you haven't heard it. It's a beautiful song. And then, and the spirit of whether to delay a release or put something out, we do have a lot of releases that are being pushed, but we had Fiona Apple, who had an album that was supposed to be coming out later, and she just said, we want to put it out now. And it's been amazing to see the reaction in response to that just came out on Friday. If you haven't listened to that, the entire work is incredible. So, in this time especially, you can see people really are looking to music to kind of try to understand what we're going through. On a broader level, music is a catalyst for social impact. In the work I do, I work with brands primarily, and we often do have brands trying to put out social messages, and a lot of what we do is aligning our artists and songs with whatever messages the brands are trying to put out in their commercials, but those are often with a purpose and a cause. And just this year we had, for example, we had randomly a Beyonce double whammy where we had her song Countdown in the Google Black History Month commercial, and then had Flawless in the Apple International Women's Month spot. So, they're brands. Whether or not you think that's the way to be sending these messages out, that's your decision to make. But the uses of the music were really powerful, and both brands really felt so strongly about having Beyonce as an artist or her song as the catalyst for their message, and I think they were really effective.
Awesome. Thank you both for your insight there. Our next question is going to be aimed at Ethan and Tim. And I know that you both have worked a variety of different roles, some related to the music business and some not. But I'd love to hear from you both. What drew you to ultimately pursue a direction in the entertainment field that you did, and how does it compare to some of your roles that you've worked in other industries?
So I've had experience on both the company/corporate side, and then also on the talent side and more independent side. My first job out of Duke, I worked for Sony, but I wasn't doing anything fun like Jessica's doing. I was in sales, doing compilation albums and not traditional retail. So things like putting a Dave Matthews album in Starbucks, or doing a sales plan for country love songs of the 1980s or Monsters of Rock, which you may remember those infomercials. So I was only there for about 6 months, and then I left to go into artist management, working for a company called Red Light Management, which at the time was a small independent management company. Now it's grown into one of the biggest in the country. And I found myself liking working on the talent side better than on the company side. I think primarily because I like living vicariously through my clients, since I knew I wasn't talented enough to be an artist myself. Although that didn't stop me from playing shows at the Armadillo Grill in the Bryant Center, which I think now is the Loop, back when it was a concert venue. But I knew I could never, like Eric, be a professional musician. So I liked working with talent because I viewed myself as a failed talent, as well as when you work with talent, you get exposed to all sides of the business. So if you're an artist manager or an artist lawyer, as I am now, you deal with the record companies, you deal with the publishing companies, you deal with the merch companies, you deal with the brands. So you get exposure to a lot of variety in the work. And when I left management to go to law school, I took a job at a big corporate firm, not doing music work, but just because everyone told me I needed to get some corporate experience before a music firm would hire me. And after a short stint there, I went back to representing talent. For a lot of the same reasons that I liked management, other than no longer being a professional babysitter, which I'm sure Kaitlin can attest to in her role.
Like, talent's easy to manage. Come on, okay? Really? Like, all due respect to the talent on the phone call, Julie and Eric. I'm sure you guys are not that way. But look, I've been in the media business, frankly, my entire career. Some very music related, places like Rolling Stone and here, obviously, and some other, PC magazines, if Davis, tech related, and it was at Google and AOL. And I think the thing that I've always liked about the media business, and it's related to music, I'm personally passionate about it, but I think it's important if you're going to be in this business. I've always been a passion around content. I mean, I like content that strikes passion with people. And whether you're a tech geek at PC Magazine, or you're a music geek, or you're passionate about this or that, I think that's what I've always enjoyed about content that people are extremely passionate about consuming, they're listening or watching, and then working with brands and audiences to wrap that in an authentic way. So I love the music business personally. I've gotten lucky where I'm able to kind of fulfill both sides, something I actually truly like, and been in and around it, and then been able to work with brands and media and artists and try to create things that work for all sides, so that to the benefit of the consumers. And to the point earlier, I think it especially this time, music has such a power to bring people together, especially and it's been good during times. And I think we're doing a lot of that, I don't know if you guys saw the living room concert show we produced and put together on Fox early on. We raised about $15 million for Feeding America and a couple other charities, and we're trying to work with the artist community and the labels and everything to try and create things to still entertain, but at the same time do something good in the world in this time. So I think that's a really important role that this music plays, and if you're passionate about it, you can put it together in an authentic way. So that's how I think about it.
All right, thank you all. So moving on to our next question, we know that the music industry can be a little bit difficult to break into, especially for artists and for those working more independently. So we wanted to ask Kaitlin, Julie, and Eric if there have ever been times in your career that you needed like a side hustle to make your ends meet. And do you have any suggestions for seniors who might be a bit hesitant to jump straight into the music industry right now?
Yeah, I've worked several side hustles, or side hustles that took up the same amount of time as full-time hustles. I think when you're starting out, if you're looking at the revenue you're able to generate as an artist or a manager or a photographer, if you're taking a less conventional or more independent role in the music industry, it's going to take you a little bit of time to scale the amount of revenue you're able to generate. So you might need to take a side job. So I've done everything from doing the copywriting descriptions for products on a website to doing marketing and communications for a wealth management firm, which sounds like not a super music-y day job to do, but was something that was nice in the sense that it allowed me to save a lot of my creative and strategic energy for the work that I was really passionate about. I think in terms of looking at jobs, preserving that creative energy is really important, so that when you sit down to write your music, or you sit down to come up with a plan for the artists you work with, or you sit down to prepare for that photo shoot, you still have that energy available. I think transferable skills are also great to look at if you have the option of just looking at, like, the marketing was great because I was marketing in a different field, but I was still developing those skills. I was getting an understanding of what it meant to build a full marketing plan for a brand instead of a band, but a lot of that carries over. I think if you're looking at jumping in right away, if you can pay your bills, you got your health insurance, you got yourself covered, then as long as you have a plan, then go for it. But there's nothing wrong with needing to be strategic or needing to take a little bit more time and take a side hustle, even if it's not that job that you've dreamed of. I think everyone has probably, to make ends meet, had to work a job or two that maybe wasn't on that linear path to where they're headed, but generally the pursuit of goals, especially in something like music, isn't going to be a linear path.
I wholeheartedly agree with finding if you're going to find a side hustle, which I'm definitely doing now to help pay my bills, because it does take a while for artists to make that money back. I would recommend, yes, finding some sort of job that doesn't suck all of your creative energy out of you, that when at the end of the day you want to sit down and write a song, you just want to turn on Netflix and watch that instead. And I also recommend, especially for artists, to know that you're coming out of Duke with a Duke degree that can get you side hustles that pay more than the average side hustle than other artists are going to be looking for. So I've found that tutoring, people pay a lot of money for a Duke tutor, all of these things that you can actually find side hustles that aren't as draining and can be much more high paying just for the fact that you have a Duke degree. That it's not going to be your full-time hustle, but I found that if I find those little things, I can actually work a little bit less and make a little more. So that would be my advice, is to really try to use your Duke degree to find a great side hustle.
Those are such good answers. I've just on the flip side of the coin, I've been very lucky in that the year I graduated, went into music, and I've just been doing music for 10 years. But the side hustle thing has come up a lot with the band. So there was a period of time 2 years ago when we went on radio tour, and that only required we have 4 singers in our band. So we would all fly all over the country and perform for iHeart and Cumulus and all the other radio station executives and all the stations. And it left our bass player and our drummer, who are in the band, full-time members, not hired guns, at home for long periods of time. It was a really challenging, weird time. But they both started side hustles. One started 2 companies. Our drummer started 2 companies, and both have done, they're now his full-time hustles now that we're in quarantine. I mean, it's kind of remarkable what's happened. One is he created a instrument that ended up winning Best in Show at NAMM. And then another is like a team building drum workshop company. And then the other one started an apparel company that's called Human Good Kind, and they make t-shirts for good causes. I think the side hustle thing is actually so clutch. The gig community that we have building that's in the arts is it's all built on what are your skills, what are your talents, and how you can put them to use. And I've leveraged so much coming out of the Duke community into the work that I'm doing. I mean, what you're talking about learning the tools right now while you have some time, that has come in key. Right now I'm teaching myself Unity, which is like the back-end software for running apps. And I've already taught myself the Adobe suite so that I can be a one-stop shop for Photoshop, video editing, music, all that stuff. I mean, these are becoming assets that more and more the band is absolutely relying on. So maybe those are my side hustles, is that I've just been kind of immersing myself in other forms of media so that I can all just build this whole thing around Delta Ray, designing our website, all of that stuff. So I think that absolutely this is an opportunity to build the tools that you're going to need to launch. The thing that I'm thinking about right now more than ever and more than anything, and that I'm sure everybody else out there is in some form or another, is what do I want? What do I really want? What do I want to put out in the world? How do I want to be of value now that all of the rules have changed for touring artists like me? I mean, I don't know yet what an audience wants right now. I don't know if they want to come to a venue. I don't know if they feel safe. I don't know if they want me to play a sad song or a happy song at the piano behind me, which you can't see. But I'm learning. I'm in an absolute experimental phase. All yesterday, I was on Twitch setting up live stream as I'm playing Witcher, just wondering if anybody wants to watch me play Witcher because I look like the freaking main character. I mean, that's what I'm doing as a musician that I can't be on tour right now. And so these are all side hustles. I mean, these are all like experimental peripheral launchings around the music. I mean, my band just came out with an album a month ago, literally to the day, and yet I can't promote it. So I'm trying to find ways to still exist in this quarantine time and maybe be on the cutting edge of whatever's going to be coming after this. And so that's very much where my mind is as we're in this.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for your answers there. Our next question is going to be for Jessica and Mary. And we know that getting your foot in the door in the music world is certainly challenging already, and probably even more so now with the lack of hiring and some of the layoffs that are actually happening in the industry. But what advice do you have for students and or alumni that are trying to get into roles in the industry, either now or in the near future?
Yeah, I can start with this one. this is clearly a very unique time to be trying to break into any industry. So it's hard to say, of course, what this is going to mean, but we do know that for the most part, most music companies are probably not hiring en masse at the moment. Hopefully this period won't last too long, but either way, my advice would be the same, which is really network, reach out, meet people, do everything you can to take advantage of any connections you can find, especially through the Duke community, because that's such an amazing asset that you have. I even see on here, I see Lily and I see Logan and a few of you who have reached out to me and I've met in the past and who've been great at keeping in touch with me and sending emails and updates. And that is so important and such a smart thing to do. You know, I know Amy is going to share some of our information, you know, reach out meaningfully to people that you really feel you might have a reason to connect with, and if you're really interested in the area they work in, but make those connections and form relationships, and then stay in touch with those people. You know, I love it when I get a random email from a Duke student I met at a Demon event 3 years ago, just saying, hey, this is what I'm up to, or, you know, I'm still looking and this is what I'm interested in, whatever it is, because I'm not, like, I don't have the time to go on LinkedIn and follow up and see what everyone's up to, but I love to get updates and I love to know, because when I do hear of openings, those are the people that will be top of mind. And from my own experience, I mean, when I graduated from Duke, I applied to 50 jobs and got maybe one interview. And it's hard, it's really hard to break in. But then as soon as I, you know, tapped into my Duke network through professors and other students, older students who just introduced me to people, I managed to land my first internship at ASCAP, and I managed to land a part-time, my side hustle. I was a personal assistant to a conductor and pianist, and I made it work. And from that internship, I got my first full-time job, and it all, you know, domino effect fell into place thanks to those connections and relationships. So that's my my piece of advice, quarantine, pandemic, or not. Now you just have a lot more time to build those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I would really just echo, you know, what Jessica said. I mean, I would say in general that I find the music industry to be a lot of a who you know industry. And so I think, well, for one, I personally, you know, love doing stuff like this so that I can helpfully, you know, hopefully give back to the Duke community, you know, in a meaningful way. And so just participating like you are today in things like this is really helpful for, like she said, staying connected and getting your foot in the door. You know, I've had several interns over my working career that I now call my super interns, and they kind of get mad that I still call them super interns because they've all moved on to being in great positions in the music industry, but they were just so passionate and really dedicated, and just that is what they wanted to do. And they just came in with like ideas and things they wanted to get accomplished and a passion for the music. And it just, you know, that's, I think, the core thing that you need to have is that like desire to really be involved in the industry and a love and a passion for the music. And, you know, that will just be very helpful. They've all gone on to have great careers. So, I mean, I want to foster that sort of thing. I think internships are great. I mean, I think it's going to be challenging. I don't think people are hiring very much just to see how this financially plays out for a lot of businesses. I mean, I can speak for my own label and saying that, you know, we felt we needed some people, but we've put that on pause and we're just waiting to see how this plays out. Like Jessica said, we really hope it's a temporary situation and we can kind of get back on track in a couple of months or so. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just staying in touch. I feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you guys. I love hearing from Duke students. And yeah, I mean, I think, you know, talking to people, you know, and I would say also, if you're an artist, you know, this is really the time to create. I think there's a real opportunity here to dig in. You know, if you write songs, you can really take the time to craft your music and even like Julie said, I mean, I have several artists on our label who are like, I'm finally learning the piano. You know, I've always played the guitar and now I'm going to really get that piano going. So, I mean, I think if you are an artist or you're coming at it from an artist perspective, I would really, really encourage you to, you know, be involved and get creative and make music, you know, write songs, perform, you know, do things in your house that you can do from a social distancing perspective that still allows you to be creative and be the artist that you are.
Yeah, and if I could throw any personal insight in as well, you know, as a student that's graduating, I think it's a really great time for students to try to pick up new skill sets. So whether that's working with a friend that's an artist and getting your feet wet managing them, or seeing what you can do on TikTok and how much digital influence you can have, you know, see if you can rack up 1 million views on a video, or go learn Final Cut Pro or Photoshop or Logic or Pro Tools. You know, it's a really great time to dive into new projects and have some skill sets to show for it when it does come time to be interviewing for positions again.
Can I add one thing to that too, just from because again, similar to Mary, we did the same thing. You know, we had a lot of open positions that we're just pausing right now to see how this plays out, obviously. But I think just to what everyone else is saying, I just think in the future, once things start opening up and we get back to normalcy, when you're sitting across the desk from a potential employer, one of the questions they're going to ask you is what you did during the COVID crisis, the quarantine. What did you create? What did you accomplish? How did you spend your time? That is going to be something on an interview question that you're going to get. And you should have a really good answer to that versus just watching, you know, Tiger King or The Last Dance, which I hate it, but it's good because Jordan's involved. But that's another story. But but I think that's you know use the time wisely, I guess, is the best advice that I get. A lot of people are talking about it, and it is an opportunity. And even Eric, to your point, God, if this happened, you know, pre all the technology we had for artists, you know, how you could never get your music out. Right now, you have so many platforms, Julie and Eric and Jess and all people's artists. I mean, it's not that we want it to happen, but the fact that it's happening now and you actually can touch and connect with consumers with your music is a huge opportunity. So I think there is an opportunity, if there's a silver lining, to take advantage of that stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, and just following up on what everyone just said, and in particular, Ethan's comments about now's the time to start doing things on your own, and Mary's comments that now's the time for an artist to create. If you're not talent, if you're not interested in being an artist, but you're interested in being an executive or being on the business side, this is the perfect time to be entrepreneurial. And if you look at a lot of the most successful executives and managers in the business, they all have an entrepreneurial streak. And it is going to be challenging to get a job now, or if you're a graduating senior, or to get an internship if you're an underclassman. But that doesn't mean you can't start your own shop. You should go manage an artist on the side, find someone whose music you love on the internet, and just reach out blindly and offer to help. And I think if you do that, you'll have a really good answer to the question that Tim said is going to be asked during any interview when it comes time to going to work for a company.
Yeah, thank you all for that insight. Kind of building off of that, we wanted to ask Tim and Ethan how they took advantage of their Duke experience in and out of the classroom, and how that applies to their career, and what opportunities at Duke they suggest that students should take advantage of to ensure future success.
I probably didn't take as much advantage of the opportunities that were there, although I think now you guys who are currently Duke students have a lot more opportunities, especially with small town records. I wish there was an opportunity to work on a record label and work with artists when I was on campus beyond working for the union or putting on shows at the coffee house. So if I were interviewing someone for a music position who went to Duke and they didn't have small town records on their resume, I would be pretty surprised, and I would think that there should be some sort of explanation for why you weren't involved with the organization. But in terms of, I mean, I think what Jess and Mary were talking about earlier about the alumni network, I mean, it's important to take advantage of that starting when you're a student, and to really leverage those networks throughout your career, because people love Duke. Almost everyone I know who went to Duke loved their experience there and have a tremendous degree of pride in the institution. And it helps you get clients if you're a representative in terms of networking. it helps you do deals if you're working opposite someone who went to Duke, just because you have this common bond. And I think that with that shared interest, it can really serve your career in terms of both getting a job and being effective once you have a job.
Yeah, I echo, what Ethan said. First of all, this was 32 years ago. I don't remember much about the classes and everything at Duke from that. So what sticks with you is the experience, the friendships, that part of Duke is what sticks with you, and what you have to put yourself out there, not just within your small social group, but as many different groups, and meet and be actively curious, and that's those experiences and that network, then leaning on it, that's where I think it's really come and beneficial, right? The friendships, and then what's come out in the learnings, and what you learn from each other, and then what you carry on, and then the community, and this this is a good example. I graduated. Long story, but I didn't have a job when I graduated. The company that gave me a job had closed down the division about a week before graduation, a couple weeks before graduation. And it was a friend of mine's, dad, who helped me out and kind of, can make some connections and then open some doors to then go and get off in the media business. But my point being is it's the personal connections. It's that side of the Duke education, the Duke community. I'm not saying classes aren't important. I'm not saying don't go to class and do all that, and learn, but make sure you are investing in those relationships and those friendships, and make sure you stay connected, both people that are there during and future and in this community, because it's an incredible community that wants to help each other be successful, especially in this area. So that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in and emphasize the importance of the relationships, both on campus and off. I was one of the many music alums who were able to work with Small Town Records, and I managed a band while I was on campus for an artist who is still producing music today and still working, one of whom that particular artist was able to tour internationally in Europe with a DJ that won some awards for their songs. Which is a really cool experience to get to participate in. And then after I moved to New York City, one of the first things I did was reach out to my Duke network and some Duke alums and just say, hey, I'm moving to New York. I want to work in music. Do you know anyone who would be great to meet? And one of the people I got introduced to was an artist named Scout, who's also a Duke alum, who I met after New York, and we've been working together for, I guess, 6 years at this point on their career. It's one of the most fulfilling relationships I have in music, and we're also able to become great friends outside of the relationship as well. So I would definitely emphasize what everyone is saying about the importance and the strength of keeping up those Duke relationships and forming new ones as you go forward.
Awesome. And our next question is kind of going to steer a little bit away from some of the topics we've been discussing, but this one's going to be aimed at Eric, Julie, and Kaitlin. But from your experiences, what have been the pros and cons of operating either, with the label system or independently of the major label system? And, Eric, I know you'll have a lot of insight on this one.
Yes, I can really preach from both sides of this argument. I've been signed to 2 labels. One was Warner and one was Big Machine, and now I'm kind of taking on this new chapter where we started our own independent record label and put out our first album. And the success of that independent record label was built on the work that we had done with when we were signed. So these are all kind of inextricably linked for me. And I will just say that labels are just people. They're groups of people. And sometimes you have people that really believe in you, and they're your champions, and they will talk about your song with people at iHeart. They'll talk about your song with the late night TV shows, and they'll get you on. And I swear, I mean, having some of those people as early ambassadors changed my whole life. I mean, it's hard to argue that wasn't why I've had any of the success that I have been lucky to have. But labels can get in their own way too, in my experience. And I was signed for 5 years and unable to put out an album. And when I say unable, I mean I have to get permission from a label to record my own voice and make it public for sale. Those 5 years were the hardest years of my life, trying to find where I should exist. I'm a musician meant to sing, and I can't sing, and I don't know how to convince the label that we should change methods. And it's really, for labels, they have so much more to worry about than that. They have to worry about the bottom line. And when I was signed, if you put out an album, then that immediately requires them to put money into it. That immediately requires them, it starts the timeline for when they have to make a decision of whether or not you get dropped. And if they don't drop you, then you know that they have to owe you a certain amount for your next advance for your record. So all of the decisions that a label makes have a lot of strings attached financially. So they have to be very calculated about how they make them. But as an artist, I'm following a different muse. I'm following a different, I'm much more in touch with something that feels emotional, connected to the audience, connected to the songs and the art. And so sometimes those things work together and it can be amazing and I can tell those stories, and sometimes they don't. They work at cross purposes and it's insufferable. I will say that the beautiful part of last year was that we launched a Kickstarter and looked to our fans and asked for their help. And we became the most funded independent band in Kickstarter's history, raising $451,000. And then we put out an album a month ago, and it was our highest charting album ever. Number 45 on the top album sales on Billboard. And all of that was built by me and my team and my band and my fans. And so it's a really pure moment, pure victory that I'm getting to celebrate in a weird way. But I do not discredit all of the people that have helped along the way, that are in the industry. And I love the industry, and I want the industry to start flexing and being a little bit more in touch with where the artist actually lives, which is listening to the audience and trying to give them what they need right now to make this day easier, more fun, and and hopefully make all that money back and then some. But I just think that there's a lot there. But that's my Cliff Notes answer.
Yeah, to go off what Eric's saying, as a manager, I think a pro of the label system is the increase in resources and increase in support that you have access to for your artist. It's right now I'm working with all independent artists, and sometimes it would definitely be nice to be able to call up a label and use some of their in-house resources to accomplish our goals for the band. But on the flip side of that, one of the nice things about being independent is you own all your assets and you have complete creative control and you have a lot of agility. So you're able to move really quickly. You're able to create in line with the artist's vision, what they want to create, even if your budget might be a little more shoestring than if you had label backing or label funding. And I think for developing artists, especially when you have so many tools available to you and so many different ways to reach your audience and grow your audience and form connections with your audience, that being independent can be a really, really powerful place to be, because you're able to move quickly, you're able to build that growth, and you don't have to wait on anyone's permission to do any of those things you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. I think it's at one point pretty overwhelming how many people can put their music out there so quickly and spread it, because there's so many people that people have to wade through. But it's really nice as an independent artist to be able to just put that music out, and especially coming straight from Duke and not having to worry about, oh, I need to get a record deal. Like I need to move to Nashville to get a record deal, and then that's going to be how my dreams are going to come true. And I've been shocked at the amount of people when I've come to Nashville that have said, don't even think about that right now. You just focus on you and building your audience and getting your music out how it is. So it is it's inspiring as a developing artist that there's so many opportunities for you to do that without having those resources yet. And then when you want to go to those labels, you will have a little bit more leverage when you get there.
All right, awesome. Thank y'all. Before we move on to our next question, I had another question for Eric, which is, would you like to play something for us?
Always. Wait, sure. I will play. I'll play something for you guys. This will be very short because I know.
Thank you, though.
But actually,
By the way, if Eric was still signed to Warner or Big Machine, he would need to get the label's permission before doing this.
that's right. I would have to ask. So we'd have to go through some.
And we'd have to negotiate the rights of the video and this on-demand thing too. So it'd be a whole thing. So thank God, Eric. You know.
I don't know how accurate that actually is, but it does feel really accurate. It's not true.
It is. I've read the contracts.
I swear. Actually, while we were talking this whole time, I've been thinking about a song that I wrote it 5 years ago, but we just got to put it out, and it name drops Duke in it. So I just wanted to play from the bridge to the end. And the song is all about home and chasing a dream. So it's very connected to everything we're talking about. It's called The Wrong Ocean. And the main character, me, is dreaming about going to the other side of the country. He's from North Carolina, which is where I was born. He wants to go to California. He wants to get signed. He wants to have the dream. When he gets there, all of the magic happens, and yet he's left with this feeling. Here it is. So many smiles I can fake in a row. So many friends that I really don't know. A blue devil on my shoulder whispers in my ear. Look homeward, angel, what you doing out here? It's been a long 3 years, and I've been looking at the wrong ocean. California's been good to me, but I've been looking at the wrong ocean, 'cause Carolina's where I'm meant to be, yeah, and Carolina's still home to me. I'm coming home. I'm coming home, Carolina.
And I'll unmute to clap because I think you deserve to hear that one, Eric.
Was my face disappearing in the background that whole time? I hope.
Nah, not too bad.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. That was beautiful. Love the song. So we'll move on to our next question. This might be our last one because it looks like we're running a long time. But again, asking about how students can best take advantage of this time, we wanted to talk to Mary and Jessica about what kind of resources they recommend for students, such as books, movies, online resources, as ways to either just pass the time or to continue and learn and develop their skills.
Sure. I actually kind of made a list for you guys because I was thinking, what do I do? I like to kind of keep in touch with the industry, so there's a bunch of stuff that I check into that might be useful to you guys. There's this thing called the Music Business Worldwide, and they have a daily newsletter they put out, which is just kind of a pulse on the industry, which I like to read a lot. I read the Rolling Stone Daily just to kind of keep up on major label things. Billboard also puts out a daily bulletin, which I glance and read through all the time. I mean, I might not read the whole thing, but it's a good way to just keep up with what's going on. I would also really suggest, if there's bands that you like or that you're into, or that's the kind of music you're into, to sign up for their email lists. You'll get lots of information from them. You get updated on what's happening with them. You know, for me, from a business perspective, I like to see what other artists are doing, or like what kind of promos they're working on and stuff like that. So that can be really helpful too. You know, I really am into jam bands, so I also get this Relics daily newsletter so that I can keep up on all the bands that I really like. So, I mean, there's a lot of things out there for specific genres of music that you guys could, you know, sign up for and get. And it just sort of all together helps to keep a good pulse on what's happening, even in all sorts of areas. Like, you know, for me, it's good as from a record label perspective, just to know what other record labels are doing. So like, I sign up for the Yep Rock newsletter. I sign up for other indie labels newsletters so that I can see what they're doing. So, I mean, if there's labels that you're into, there's generally a way to like sign up and get emails from them. So I would suggest those sort of things. So that's all good from an industry point of view. Like from a creative point of view too, I mean, if I could show you guys, I can't in here, but I'm also obsessed with reading all the rock and roll books that come out. Like I'm currently reading the Kathy Valentine book, which I don't know if you guys would know who she is, but she was one of the founding members of the Go-Go's, and she just put out a memoir, and it's really good, which is called All I Ever Wanted. But I love reading those books. I mean, I've read them all, like Keith Richards' Life, it's a great book. Patti Smith, Just Kids is probably the best one out there. I'd highly recommend that, no matter what kind of music you like or you're into. It's just amazing to read these artists' memoirs and stories, and you can just find inspiration. You can learn a lot. You can see the ups and downs of the business. So, I mean, I have a stack on my nightstand that's like 6 deep because I like to read them all. So there's you know, there's tons of books out there, but I would suggest doing that too. I think that those can be really helpful.
That was an amazing list. The only thing I'll add, just to kind of round out something to spend your time doing, is listen to music and find music that you like and care about, and be fans of music, because if you want to work in the music industry, the only people that make it in the music industry are people that are passionate about music. And every time I interview somebody for a job, without a doubt, I ask, what kind of music do you like? What do you listen to? What got you into music? So yeah, don't forget to be a fan and be able to talk about the music you love and be passionate about it.
Awesome. And for any of our other panelists that have any suggestions, feel free to send those to myself or to Amy, and we can add those to the Demon Lounge website under a section that's called What Are the Pros Reading. And you can find, you know, a bunch of those resources there. I'd love to squeeze in one last question since we have a minute here, but for Tim and Ethan, what do you guys think the impact of this pandemic will be on the music industry? How is the industry going to rebound, and what does the future look like? What might change in your eyes?
Not to sugarcoat things, and I'm not going to, the short term is bleak. I don't think there are going to be any concerts in 2020, and I think that it's very possible that could extend into a significant portion of 2021. That being said, most artists that I work with and most people that I know who work in the business aren't interested in a short-term career. And eventually this will all be behind us. And I think that whatever the new normal is going to be is not going to look that far different than what it was before the coronavirus. It's just going to take some time to get there.
Yeah, I'd love to disagree with Ethan, but I think 2020 is not looking too good. I mean, I'm a self-titled aggressive optimist, so I can't help but think it's glasses half full, and we're going to find a way. But I don't, even if we start back, you know, are people really going to want to get back, you know, into these stadiums, into these places? I mean, we want to get Eric and Julie back on tour and on stage, and as much as everybody. So I think this year is going to be really tough to do that as it starts opening up, kind of state by state, market by market. We'll see. Look, I think it's going to cause all of us. So we've on our side, we're, you know, when with the artists coming together, we're pivoting pretty hard into the virtual concert world. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that, and it's forcing us all to adapt and use technology in different ways and think differently on how to get our music out and how to entertain and how to, you know, create awareness for causes. So I think you'll see continue down that path, and then I think we'll evolve slowly. And what it looks like in the fall, who knows, right? You know, I think we're going to learn a lot in the next month as things if Major League Baseball gets canceled, if the NBA playoffs get set, if the conventions get canceled, I think that will determine what the back half and the artist tours and if we're going to get back together in this next like month, 4 to 6 week period. But I think we're all looking at, okay, what does 2021 look like? And then I do think when we get to next year, that we will learn things that worked virtually or through technology that we never would have tried this year without this happening, that we'll incorporate into what tours or what artists and how they connect with and how we put music out and work together with everybody too. So I think I'll stay optimistic. There'll be some cool new things and innovative things that come out of this as a result as well. So I'll take that view.
Yeah, and quickly jumping in on the live streaming. Look, the streaming a concert over the internet, over Zoom or whatever, stage it, whatever platform, it's never going to replicate the in-person experience, but it's still some form of entertainment that can keep people happy and hopeful and positive during this tough time. And it's also providing an opportunity for folks who don't live in major markets or don't live far away from cities where artists would normally tour to have the opportunity to get at least the spontaneity of a live concert, even if you're not getting the full production. And that's something that could live on after the pandemic is over and people are back touring live.
Right. And then the only challenge there that would, like, sorry, and I'll shut up, I promise, is that, how do artists really make money without touring, right? And what do the economics look like? And how does that whole ecosystem have to evolve in a new world? And that's something we're gonna have to all figure out together, because it doesn't work if you guys aren't making money and aren't able to do this and what you're passionate about.
I just thought I would add that it really has, I mean, music people are creative people, and this has forced them to be almost hyper creative in coming up with the ways to do stuff. And I mean, our artists have been amazing at shifting to this online paradigm and coming out with their own idea of what that looks like. We had a record release event that was completely virtual that was just amazing, and then we had over 7,000 people watching, which would have never happened if we weren't forced into this situation. And all of them have kind of come up with their plan in a different way, which has also been really cool to see. So I think in some ways it's really like pushed this idea of how to promote your own music in a virtual sense, instead of just relying on tour dates as your way to promote a record release, to really like come up with different ways to do it. And it's really, in some ways, I've been just heartened by it, because it's been amazing to see all the different ideas and things. And then just on a personal level, like the other night on Friday night, I mean, I got to watch band after band after band that I love, just, looking at my computer, but it was awesome. So, I mean, I think those kind of things are pushing artists to come up with new and creative ways to promote their music, which I agree, I think will continue into the future, even when we get back to some sense of normalcy.
Thank you. And for other panelists, if you guys want to add anything as well, you're more than welcome.
I was just going to say that the biggest challenge is what, if any of them, will make any money. The thing that we're working on right now is we're experimenting to try to find the sweet spot, the win-win-win, something sustainable, something that our audience loves, and something that would make money. And so far we haven't found it. We'll still look, and then figuring out what platform to go on. Is it Twitch? Is it YouTube Live? Is it Facebook Live? Is it Instagram? Instagram has limitations. They don't allow outside broadcasting services, so you have to do it within their parameters. We're a band between 3 states. How can you get a broadcast happening? We have kids in the band, now, so we have to worry about family safety, as opposed to other bands who are younger, who don't have any of those constraints, can maybe just be sequestered in the same house, broadcasting every night. So I think every artist is probably dealing with their own set of constraints, and trying to figure out in a 6 weeks now, we've had to wonder, okay, is this just going to be a month-long changing of the rules, or is this the rest of the year? Are we postponing the tour, or are we canceling the tour? Now we know we're canceling. So what's the new normal looking like? I do think, every day I feel like a coder, like I'm thinking all the time, and I'm waiting till the last moment when I actually have to write the code. because then I want it to be perfect. But right now I'm in the ideation mode of like, what does an audience even want? Because you're right, live streaming, it's just not the same experience. So is there something else you can do? I see a lot of bands doing like broadcasting them cooking dinner and things like that. And I don't think it's going to work. And it's definitely not going to monetize. So we've got some problems and riddles to solve. And if any of those geniuses watching right now in the Duke network have any ideas, my email's over here in the chat column and I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll finish up. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, from our panelists to the folks over at Demon to everybody just watching. On a positive note, the Demon Live series will be continuing. So if you check out the Demon Lounge link that's been posted in the chat, there will be information about upcoming episodes like this. For example, there will be a pen and page and podcast session on May 7th with some alumni working in journalism and media. And speaking of live streams, we over at Small Town Records have some releases that have come out recently. Those are on our website, on our Spotify and other services. There will also be the LDoc live stream tomorrow, which is featuring our artist Logan, who'll be opening for the band Two Fronts. So plenty of stuff to keep everybody entertained. I hope that everyone's staying safe and well in these times. And thank you all for attending, and good night.